How's the royal family? I pray that everyone is doing well. Well, my royal family, I do not want to lose sight about the continuous drama, the continuous disrespect of our black farmers. And you see the way I titled this. Like I keep saying, my royal family, there's a special type of deep hate in Florida. And I keep saying to the royal family, the space and time that we are in, having nefarious thoughts, you don't even have to execute anything on us. You're going to have hell to pay. What I've been doing is anytime some drama happens in the state of Florida, I will actually go to that individual town to see what's popping off. And I keep saying over and over, there was many Rosewoods in the state of Florida. There's something about that energy. We know what we sing in the state of Florida. And isn't it ironic that a judge in the state of Florida do what they do? So I want to get the royal family up to speed on the dirt and the grime and how greasy the enemy and also their supporters get down on the royal family. So this first video I'm going to share with y'all, my royal family, is dated February 10th, 2021. More so audio, excuse me.
Hartzler seeks to reduce relief to black and other minority farmers in Biden stimulus. A Missouri congresswoman wants to reduce the amount of debt relief black and other minority farmers would receive under President Joe Biden's stimulus bill. The House Agriculture Committee met Wednesday afternoon to consider agriculture policy sections in the massive budget resolution that the Biden administration and congressional Democrats are aiming to pass in the near future. The legislation includes a provision that the U.S. Department of Agriculture pay each socially disadvantaged farmer or rancher for 120% of their outstanding debt stemming from farm loans made directly or guaranteed by the USDA. This would amount to an estimated $4 billion in debt relief for black and other minority farmers. It's part of a wider push on Capitol Hill, led by New Jersey Senator Cory Booker, to redress historical discrimination against black farmers by the USDA and to provide financial help to a population of farmers that have struggled to obtain loans or subsidies at the rate of their white peers. But Representative Vicky Hartzler, a Republican whose family owns a farm in Cass County, has offered an amendment that would dramatically shrink the proposed debt relief by limiting it to debts incurred as a direct result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Republicans have said throughout negotiations on the package they want COVID-19 relief to be targeted in scope. Solving the issue of discrimination has long been a concern in America, predating this pandemic and, for many, our entire lifespans. While it remains an important issue today, the sole purpose of this package is to provide targeted COVID-19 relief, not assistance which reaches outside this objective, Hartzler said in a statement to the Star. Up to this point, we have already authorized $4.09 trillion with $1 trillion still left over from previous COVID packages. While I encourage hearings in the future to better understand the issue and its impact, it is paramount we focus these efforts on the imminent needs of the American people and the agriculture industry, which have been upended by this virus. Hartzler's amendment stood little chance of making it onto the bill since Democrats control the House. A spokeswoman for the committee confirmed it was rejected during the course of the Marathon 8-hour meeting. John Boyd, founder and president of the National Black Farmers Association, said Hartzler's amendment would put up unnecessary stumbling blocks for minority farmers. We've been having problems the whole damn time. COVID-19 just made it worse for us, said Boyd, who owns a farmer in Boydton, Virginia, where he raises cattle and grows wheat, corn and soybeans. You limit the numbers of blacks and other minorities who would receive the relief. It's a way to indirectly discriminate, Boyd said. It's frustrating for people like me. Boyd's organization, founded in 1988, represents about 116,000 members across 42 states, including Kansas and Missouri. He said black farmers tend to have smaller operations, which means they often fail to meet production thresholds for federal subsidy programs. Hartzler's farm has received more than $1.2 million in federal subsidies since 1995, including the funds he received as part of former President Donald Trump's bailout for losses related to his trade war with China. Hartzler family's businesses also received nearly a $480,000 loan from the Federal Paycheck Protection Program, set up during the COVID-19 pandemic. Here's someone who has a $500,000 PPP loan. I'm telling you that the black farmers, many didn't get that PPP, Boyd said.
Okay,
Next article.
Let's cut that off.
Billie Jean Duncan Foster.
Let me cut that off. So this racist to the core, dusty bitch, that's the only way I can put it, been doing grimy shit behind the scenes. Now, based on my research, when they had allocated this money, they had within 30 days to make sure that the black farmers, or the unquote minority farmers, get their coins. And they've been pussyfooting around all this time. Because, it's essentially July. Now let's hear what come out of this demon's mouth.
Farmers are hurting, and they need more trade, not tariffs. So this is very concerning.
And is that something that you've heard from some of your constituents, or where you're from, and like firsthand, and things that they've said at all?
Yeah. Well, I haven't had a chance to visit with them today because we've been holding the assemblies and things. But just in visiting with farmers and constituents over the last several months, it has been just, there's a nervousness and a concern because prices have been down over the last couple of years in agriculture, and we really need prices to increase. And so we're hoping to increase trade. So we'll see what happens. I don't believe this is the last result of what the president is doing. I hope it's just a temporary situation and to get some concessions from China for some of their clear abuses that they have been doing in other areas. And then hopefully we can eventually get back to removing the tariffs and moving forward in a fair and open trade situation that we all want.
Yeah, whatever. It ain't nothing fair about what these people do. So she talking about what's going on over there on China and stuff, but still, they make damn sure they always in our affairs. Now, this interview, I think, is quite necessary for the royal family to listen to. And I forgot what day Roland Martin did this. I think it was about 3 weeks ago. So let's listen to these lies. Because, he's supposed to be the top dog running all this shit.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Today, I spoke with the Agriculture Secretary, Tom Vilsack, about the program, about the lawsuit, and also about his tumultuous relationship with the National Black Farmers Association. Here's our conversation. Secretary Vilsack, glad to have you on Roland Martin Unfiltered. We talked when you were Secretary of Agriculture under President Barack Obama on my old show, so glad to have you back.
Nice to be back with you. Like the t-shirt.
Well, I started this segment called Where's Our Money? A few years ago, I spoke to a group in Cincinnati, and I was a keynote speaker. They had a whole initiative where they were focused on economic inclusion, economic apartheid, and building financial freedom for African Americans. So we created this segment, and this ongoing battle with black farmers has been a part of that. $5 billion was in the American Rescue Plan, and it's not solely for black farmers. So explain to us exactly where that is. I know there's a lawsuit. Has any money been dispersed? Exactly what is going on with that particular $5 billion allocation?
Next week, the Federal Registry will contain a Notice of Funds Availability, which is a technical term indicating that we received permission from the Office of Management and Budget to begin the process of paying off the debts of socially disadvantaged farmers. These are farmers who have been discriminated against based on ethnicity and race, so defined by a 1990 piece of legislation. What we're going to do now, a letter is going to go out to each farmer who has a direct loan with the United States Department of Agriculture. These are farmers that borrowed money from the USDA, either to purchase a farm, to operate a farm, or to have farm storage facilities built and constructed. These letters will go out and they will essentially say, we have calculated the amount of your outstanding balance, principal, interest, and fees. This is what we calculate the debt to be. We're going to pay that debt off. And if you agree with this amount, we will also ask that you sign a copy of the letter, return it to USDA, and when you do, we will send you a check for 20% of the amount of the outstanding balance of the loan. Now, the reason we're sending that 20%, Roland, is because these farmers, once the debts are paid off, will have a tax responsibility, a liability, and the 20% is designed to help them pay that tax. We're focusing on direct borrowers initially because they represent roughly 85% of the entire borrowers that are affected by this piece of legislation. The other borrowers are called guaranteed borrowers. These are people that went out, borrowed money from a bank, and we at USDA guaranteed the loan. A little more complicated because you got a bank involved. We're asking banks to give us understanding of what the prepayment penalties are so we can include those in the payment to the bank so that the farmer is not responsible for paying off any prepayment penalty. And then we'll obviously get them the 20% as well. One other aspect of this is we're going to provide assistance to farmers so that they understand about this tax circumstance and situation. If they're still farming, it's an opportunity for them to average their income over a 3-year period and lower the tax liability. They may need technical assistance, so we're going to encourage them to talk to their accountant or their tax preparer, or if they don't have one, to provide information about where they might be able to reach out to a community building organization that will assist them with that advice.
How do you respond to a group of white farmers who filed this lawsuit who say, oh, this is unfair, this is reverse discrimination? In fact, Senator Tim Scott, the only black Republican United States senator, went on Face the Nation and criticized this inclusion as if he didn't understand the years of discrimination that black farmers have actually faced, from the federal government.
I would tell the good senator to read this book. It's a wonderful book that basically charts and indicates the history over a 100-year period of the way in which the Department of Agriculture operated to exclude and to prevent or to limit access to programs for black farmers and socially disadvantaged farmers. So for a period of 100 years, things have been skewed against these socially disadvantaged producers. And the result is a gap has existed between those producers and white producers who had the full array of benefits at USDA. What is that gap? Well, white producers were able to grow their farms. They were able to increase the size of their farms, be able to purchase better equipment, put their crop in the ground in a more timely way so their yields were greater. How does that impact and affect things today? Well, it creates a gap between those who had full access and those who didn't. How do I know there's a gap? Well, when we did COVID relief and we made payments to farmers, about 25% of those farmers, Roland, self-identified as either white, black, Hispanic, whatever. Of that 25% universe, white farmers received $5.5 billion of relief. Black farmers received $20 million of relief.
Wow.
There's a significant gap there, right? So this program isn't taking anything away from anyone. It's simply providing a resource to begin a first step in closing that gap. The second step is to take the additional resources from the American Rescue Plan and begin a process of figuring out how better to provide technical assistance to socially disadvantaged producers so they access more programs at USDA, filling that gap in. How do we provide more market access, create market opportunities for these farmers so that they actually have a profitable venture? That closes the gap. And how do we also address the issue of land access so they are able to grow their farms over time? And part of that is the heirs property issue, as you know. The title to farms can sometimes be difficult based on the fact that many black farmers didn't have wills, and so over a period of time their land became fractionally owned by a lot of folks. Well, we're now going to set up a process where we'll allow folks to clear the title, if you will, of that land, which will also make more programs available to folks. So the whole goal here is to try to begin the process over time to fill the gap and to make sure that USDA is a department that's available to all producers, not just a select few.
I would also say what's important to say to Senator Tim Scott and these white farmers who are complaining. Also, you have white nationalist Stephen Miller, who's also whining on Fox News about this, is that these white farmers have benefited billions of dollars from taxpayer money. Black folks also pay taxes. Black folks have been investing in this, and so this whole notion that somehow black farmers are getting a leg up, the numbers don't lie.
No. There's no question about this, and it's important for folks to understand. In the past, there have been specific acts designed to compensate individual farmers for specific acts of discrimination that were directed at them personally. The Pigford cases, for example, the Keepseagle case for Native Americans, the Hispanic and Garcia and Love cases for Hispanic and women farmers. But in this circumstance, this situation is not about individually compensating individual farmers for discrimination. It's about a reflection that as a group, black farmers, Hispanic farmers, Native American farmers, men and women both, have been discriminated against over a period of time, and their capacity to access programs at USDA has been limited. And because of that, over a period of time, as a group, they've had fewer opportunities to expand, fewer opportunities to be profitable. And so this is really designed to respond to the cumulative effect of discrimination, as opposed to a specific act of discrimination. And it's really, and I think it's reflected in the COVID money, $5.5 billion versus $20 billion. I mean, when it's pretty clear here that the system is designed and set up to benefit those who have large farms and those who have significant yields. Well, who are those people? Most often they are white farmers.
You also, the New York Times reported this, that you have these three banking groups, the American Bankers Association, the Independent Community Bankers of America, and the National Rural Lenders Association, complaining that this program is going to cause folks to pay off their debts early, is going to hurt them. Geez. Black farmers, we've seen a dramatic decrease in the land of black farmers. We've seen what they have to deal with, and now you got these banking groups whining about them getting relief.
Well, here's what's really interesting about this. Banks, as you know, put into the contract, into the loan, a prepayment penalty. It basically says, look, if you're going to pay us off early, you're going to have to pay us more money. You're going to have to pay us 3% of the loan, or 4%, or 5%. That prepayment penalty is calculated by banks to make up whatever theoretical loss they may incur by having the loan paid off early. And number one, we're going to pay the prepayment penalty, we meaning the USDA. Farmers are not going to pay it. The USDA is going to pay it. So banks are going to get that additional 3% or 5%. Plus they obviously get to loan the money back out again, and they may be able to loan it at a higher interest rate, which means they'll probably make more money. And then finally, with any outstanding loan, there's always the risk that the loan doesn't get paid, and there's foreclosure actions and expenses involved in that, and there's actually a loss that often occurs. Well, we're eliminating any risk of foreclosure here because we're paying off all of the loans. No one is going to be foreclosed on. No one's going to eventually have to go into bankruptcy. Those are expenses the banks have to incur. So frankly, I am surprised, and I'm actually, I think it's incredible that some banks have suggested, well, geez, if you pay us off, that may mean that we may not lend money in the future to socially disadvantaged farmers. I mean, seriously? I mean, it's just shocking to me that people would even make that argument, given the prepayment penalty, given the fact that there's no risk of foreclosure or loss, and given the fact that they can lend the money out maybe at a higher interest rate. I mean, it's just incredible.
So there's been a lot of friction between you and the National Black Farmers. I've had John Boyd on my show many times. They were very adamant against you being reappointed as Secretary of Agriculture. How have y'all come together, sat down to mend the relationship, build a relationship, repair a relationship in order to move forward? And what are you also doing to go through the Agriculture Department and deal with the systemic racism? Because look, you control a significant budget, a huge budget, and the USDA goes way beyond just farms. A lot of people have no idea about that, and so what are you doing to ensure that we're seeing Black economic social justice take place in the USDA? So first, the relationship with the Black Farmers Association, and also your plans to revamp this department and really make it accessible to African Americans.
Well, I have been in touch with John Boyd, as I was during the previous Obama administration, and we actually worked collaboratively together on the Pickford settlement. We were working together to get more money. I went to President Obama and asked to increase the level of Pickford payments from $100 million that Congress had authorized to $1.1 billion. So we were able to secure an additional $1 billion. I have reached out to John. We've texted back and forth. Dwayne Goldman, who is the first ever senior advisor for racial equity in my office, directly reports to me, has also been in touch with Mr. Boyd. And we have made an effort not only to reach out to his association, but to all the associations to get input, first and foremost, about how best to organize and operate this debt forgiveness program. And I think we've taken into consideration the input that we've received from that outreach. We've had a call center. We've put frequently asked questions on the website, and we've also had meetings with these groups to solicit their input. In fact, I just got off a call that the White House organized with a number of these groups to give them a heads up on what's happening in terms of the debt forgiveness program. So there's been significant outreach, and that's going to continue. Now, why is it going to continue? For two reasons. One, the President of the United States, President Biden, has directed every department to do an internal investigation and review of the services, the benefits, the procurement practices, to determine whether or not there indeed exist systemic barriers, and if so, to remove those barriers and to improve the services, the benefits, the procurement, to make sure that we are treating everyone fairly and equitably. So there's an internal review process. We have working groups that have already been set up that are already beginning that work across the board. As you say, we have quite a number of mission areas, so it's going to be a complete review internally. But we're going to go one step further. Congress has instructed us to create an equity commission. This is a commission that has to be set up according to congressional rules. So we are in the process of finalizing the charter for that commission. We will then open it up for nominations for people to serve in that commission. And those folks will be experts who will look at USDA from the outside in. So we have an internal process of review. We also have an external process. And the expectation is both of those processes will identify barriers and problems and be able to make a set of recommendations. And then we'll go through the process of figuring out how best to implement those recommendations. So at the end of the day, we have a USDA that is far more fair and equitable to everyone. That's the goal. The second piece of this is to make sure that our senior executive team, our leadership team, is reflective of the diversity that we represent at USDA, the diversity that we serve at USDA. And so if you take a look at our appointments, Dr. Jill Bernal, first African-American woman to serve as deputy of the Department of Agriculture, former commissioner in Virginia of Agriculture and Consumer Services, someone who has a historic Black college background, so she has connections to that important universe that we want to work with. So that is a representative of many appointments that we're making that reflect a commitment to diversity and inclusion. So between our senior executive staff, our internal review and our external review, and our outreach efforts generally around the debt relief efforts, all of that, I think, reflects a genuine good faith effort to try to get things right at USDA. And then finally, we do have the additional money in the American Rescue Plan that basically directs us to figure out ways in which we can improve access to technical assistance, market access, and land access. And we'll be implementing that effort over the course of the next 6 to 8 months.
Last thing I would say is a part of that might be a little bit selfish, but I've been as a part of this segment really also pressing the Biden administration to deal with the issue of equity when it comes to also media advertising. There was a survey done 3 years ago. The federal government spent $5 billion over 5 years, and only 1% with the black-owned media. And so I would also say as a part of that, you also look at the folks who handle the advertising for the USDA, who has that contract to ensure that they're also doing the exact same thing, and that is working with black-owned media, because we see the exact same problem. So what black farmers have been dealing with, we in black-owned media have been dealing with, not only in major corporate America, but even with the federal government.
We did that in the last time I was secretary, and that's a very good suggestion. And it goes to President Biden's direction for us to take a look at our procurement practices. He is very, very serious about this, and he recognizes the importance of making sure that we're equitable across the board.
All right, Secretary Tom Vilsack, I appreciate it. I look forward to having you back.
Now, with all this talk and all this bullshit, the black farmers have not received a dime. And what is ridiculous to me, my royal family, that they have to have all these meetings and all these different people appointed to do one simple ass thing: give up the coins. That's it, and that's all. So let's get to the present. We're going to get into the present and see what's really going on.
Welcome back to CBS This Morning, Saturday. The American Rescue Plan, which became law in March, was supposed to deliver billions of dollars in aid and loan forgiveness to the nation's underprivileged farmers. Instead, those funds are being held up by a federal lawsuit. The promise of aid that fails to materialize is all too familiar to many farmers of color, long subjected to discrimination in government programs. We went to Virginia to talk with a fourth-generation black farmer leading the call for change.
John Boyd has been tilling the soil for the last 3 decades, land that's been in his family for 100 years.
My grandfather was able to raise 15 children on his farm.
You say you're the classic case
Yes.
of the black farmer.
Classic case.
Why?
Many black farmers were tied historically to the land, either through sharecropping or generational land. That's the way the blacks did it, and we were old school farmers. These are our tobacco curing bonds.
Boyd is president of the National Black Farmers Association, representing thousands of black farmers across the U.S.
We farmed with limited resources. Banks weren't lending us any money. USDA really dogged black farmers, and poor processing time. It took 387 days to process a black farm loan request and less than 30 days to process a white farm loan request.
In March, President Biden announced his plan to right that wrong, providing $4 billion in loan relief to socially disadvantaged farmers and ranchers in his $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan.
This debt relief is designed to catch them up.
We spoke to Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack in April about disparities in the last year alone.
In the COVID relief packages that were announced prior to the rescue plan, of those self-identified farmers who identified as white or black or Hispanic, black farmers received roughly $20 million in help through those COVID packages. White farmers received over $5.5 billion. And the reason for it is because they were able to grow over a period of time, over the decades, able to fully utilize the full extent of USDA programs. Black farmers were not able to do that because of discrimination.
But last week, a federal judge in Wisconsin halted those payments, saying the U.S. Department of Agriculture's use of race-based criteria in the administration of the program violates their right to equal protection under the law.
It's one thing to help people because they themselves have been the victim of identifiable past discrimination. But it's a wholly other thing to hand out benefits or to grant the preference based solely on the color of one's skin.
Rick Eisenberg is the president of the Wisconsin Institute of Law and Liberty, the firm representing 12 white farmers across 9 states that challenge the policy.
So you don't argue that systemic racism has perhaps disadvantaged black farmers in the past?
Certainly there have been some farmers who have been, black farmers who have been discriminated against in the past. There was a lawsuit. The way to stop discriminating on the basis of race is to stop discriminating on the basis of race and not to think that there is some way that we can balance the scales by discriminating just a little bit.
The USDA isn't backing down, telling CBS News, "We respectfully disagree with this temporary order and will continue to forcefully defend our ability to carry out this act of Congress and deliver debt relief to socially disadvantaged borrowers."
I wasn't aware that some farmers weren't receiving the same as other farmers.
Cheryl Ash and her husband James are plaintiffs in the suit. They breed hogs in Jasper, Missouri.
They're only about 4 days old.
I didn't know that existed, but I think it doesn't matter what color of skin you have. If you're a farmer, you should be able to qualify and get those programs and those grants. Equality is best, especially from our government.
At the turn of the last century, there were nearly 1 million black farmers in America. The USDA now says there are only 45,000 in a country of 3 million farmers. And less than 40% of them, 17,000, qualify for assistance.
At the bottom, they would use old rocks from the farm.
For Boyd, those numbers showcase decades of discrimination and disparity that he pledges he will fight to remedy.
Well, let me say this. I'm going to die a farmer. I'm very optimistic about the future, but I want people to know that it's not going to happen by itself.
Well, the Department of Agriculture is going to answer the suit. They are essentially advising borrowers to just move forward with their claims. But as we speak, there are some 5 other lawsuits that are already coming down the pike. Look, the big question here is whether or not these black farmers, farmers of color, should have a remedy for those years, decades of discrimination that the USDA acknowledges. There have been lawsuits, but oftentimes they aren't fully paid out.
And I think everybody agrees equality is best, as she said. There's
Exactly.
just a question of how you actually get there.
Right, and what was the inequality earlier, and how can you make up for that?
Look, it's tough. It's tough.
It's not just this industry, but certainly here.
When it's unfair, when you see unfairness out there, it's not pretty, right? And so now I think everyone sees a taste of it. The question is, like years and years.
How do you remedy that?
How do you remedy?
You know what gets me about all this, my royal family, is that the head of the agricultural department actively discriminated when he first was appointed. And he's still actively discriminating. They made sure they telegraphed this information out, knowing that the white farmers were going to do what they're going to do. This is the government. They could have put something in place where none of that would have went down. They could have put a package together in such a way where not a judge or anybody would have been able to step in. They have that type of power. They already knew that they was going to do this shit. They already knew it. They telegraphed it. Remember, like when you boxing and you telegraph, you already know what punch is going to be thrown. I wouldn't even be surprised behind the scenes that they greasy ass assisted the agriculture department. The people in the agriculture department assisted them in filing these suits. All right? So let's get into this last video. And just to let you know, this video is 2 days old.
As a key part of his stimulus package, President Biden allocated over $4 billion to black and minority farmers who had lost 90% of their land over the past century due in part to racism and discrimination. The money would provide debt relief as well as grants, training, and education for those farmers, but it now hangs in the balance because today, a U.S. district judge in Florida temporarily blocked it. The ruling came after a lawsuit filed by Scott Wynn, a white farmer in Florida, who claims he also faced financial challenges during the pandemic and that the debt programs discriminated against him as a white person. The program was already temporarily on hold due to another lawsuit by a white farmer in Wisconsin. The Florida judge wrote in her ruling that, quote, "It appears that in adopting Section 1005 strict race-based debt relief remedies, Congress moved with great speed to address the history of discrimination, but did not move with great care." But here's the thing. This is not just a pandemic issue. This is a century of discrimination issue. Black farmers in America have lost more than 12 million acres of farmland over the past century due to a series of biased government policies such as federal homestead acts that offered white settlers subsidies when at the same time blacks were denied equal access to the markets, credit, or loans. For decades, the USDA has discriminated against black and minority farmers by denying loans that resulted in an estimated $120 billion in lost farmland value since 1920. Today, according to the Census of Agriculture, the average farm operated by an African American is about 100 acres, compared with the national average of about 440 acres. And according to the USDA, white farmers account for 98% of those acres. Even now, some black farmers don't have clear titles to their land, which makes them ineligible for certain loans, such as USDA loans to purchase livestock or cover the cost of planting. Now, to discuss this, I am joined by John Boyd Jr., President and founder of the National Black Farmers Association. Mr. Boyd, thank you for joining me, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Can you give us the logic that is being used by this Florida District Court judge? The lawsuit seems to be specific to this particular farmer, saying he faced hardships during the pandemic. But the remedy in the bill was about the entire history of discrimination.
That's correct. And there's a long-standing history of discrimination against black farmers in this country. I was trying for 30 years to get debt relief and land out of federal inventory for black farmers. It failed in both of our lawsuits. And it's being portrayed in the media like it's a new program that excludes white farmers. And nothing is more far from the truth than that. It's been white farmers who received basically all of the debt write-offs, loan reamortizations. They pretty much participated to the tune of 99% of the U.S. Farm Subsidy Program to the tune of $500 billion with a T. And this isn't some sort of reparations case like it's being portrayed as well. You have to have had a direct loan at USDA or a guaranteed loan, and the persons who were eligible to qualify were blacks, Native Americans, Hispanics, Asians, and Pacific Islanders under the term socially disadvantaged farmers. Nobody excluding white farmers here, and they filed 8 lawsuits, and the National Black Farmers Association has filed amicus briefs in all of those states, and we're fighting those complaints as we speak. And we also need to make it clear to our people that in order to challenge these cases, we need your support. We need the support of the black community and black leadership. Really need to get involved on this issue, because if this case moves forward in federal court, it would set a precedent for other further decisions as it relates to blacks trying to get justice in this country.
Well, that's what I want to ask you about. What's next? Mr. Boyd, what's next?
Well,
so they have put it on hold now. It was already on hold in Wisconsin. What happens next?
Well, basically, this judge has issued a national, pretty much injunction of stay on the payments, which means that black farmers and farmers of color can't get the relief. Now, I do want to state that Secretary Vilsack didn't act swiftly enough, as I've came on this network and asked repeatedly that the secretary move within 30 days of getting the bill finalized. So it's no longer a bill, it's actual law. It's a law, and we still haven't gotten the money. So the Secretary of Agriculture moved too slow to get the payments out to black farmers. And I'm seeking to meet with President Biden to discuss why the administration moved so tardy in getting relief to blacks and other farmers of color in this country. Secondly, they sent the letters out to white farmers instead of selling them. They sent them to farmers of color, but also to white farmers, knowing that they could not participate in this program, which is something I advised Secretary Vilsack about as well.
Mr. Boyd, unfortunately, I'm out of time. I really wish you well with this. I don't know how this is going to turn out. I hope it turns out well for the black farmers and for you. And as it develops, I hope you'll come back on the show to talk about it. I really appreciate it.
I would love to come back on the show, and I want to tell you that I'm in this fight all the way to the Supreme Court, and I've been in this fight for 38 years. And no one's afraid of white farmers. They want it all, and that's what the problem here in this country. And I'm here to say that black farmers have to have ours too. And we have to participate in loan programs. And I'm not going to give up until this debt relief goes out to every eligible black farmer and farmer of color in this country. Thank you for having me.
Now y'all see what I said, y'all see what I said, my royal family? Now the head.
A key part of his stimulus package.
Now the head of the Agriculture Department participated in slow dragging, getting the coins out, and they purposely sent out them memorandums to the white farmers, knowing what they was going to do. Now, he was the head of the Agriculture Department not too long ago and purposely discriminated against them. Ain't a damn thing changed. But I purposely put the title that I put, even though they're doing it nationwide, because of the dynamics that are going down in Florida. See, these folks don't believe whatsoever in karma. When it do finally hit them, it's going to be way too damn late. You would think the dynamics that are going on in America, that would be the last thing that the enemy would do. But the enemy is true to thy nature. They fully understand that they are in a war, and they don't care what karma affects them. They're all hung up on their immediate situation. So their ultimate goal is to put in enough stays and all this type of shit that the judges are doing to starve out the black farmers, because it's affecting their immediate situation too. And they'll lose their farms, they'll lose their land, they will completely lose out. And telegraphing and purposely doing the things that they do. I have already spoke into the universe again and again. Anyone thinking, let alone executing nefarious thoughts and actions, you will feel tenfold. This is going to be a generational thing. You know, I understand how the enemy totally gets down. They don't even want folks to eat. They don't even care if they own eat. It's all about trying to defeat royalty. They don't even fully understand what they messing with in this space, in this time. See, we're in a different type of space and time. We're coming out. They're going in. Captivity. All right? So yes, they're going to continue to operate the way they've been operating because they have not felt the ripple effects or the side effects of the trash, the dirt, the grease, the grime that they have set up in this system. So somewhere along the line, something has to happen. And it's happening as I speak. We need to keep doing what we're doing, my royal family. But it is vastly important that we keep up with these farmers. You know, I don't get a whole lot of views on that. But I said I'm going to still do my part because we got to eat daily. So please share this, my royal family. Please get this word out. This is how they really getting down. So my royal family, render your voice with your beautiful divine words. And as always, my royal family, I thank you for your love. I thank you for your support. And with that said, Ashe.